Good morning to all of you and welcome to this conference on climate change. Now there are many conferences that have been held over the last 2 decades and more on climate change, but this one is different because the second half of the title itself is Shifting Science and Changing Policy. And that way I can say that this particular conference is going to be unique because we are going to think out of the box. Now, there are so many issues those can be considered under climate change and so on. But then when it comes to really discussing these things, I remember the first conference on this subject that was held in Hyderabad some 2.5 decades back. At that time it was realized that that time of course people were talking more about global warming rather than climate change. And then all the time it was don't do this, don't do that and so on. Now we have got to do something for decent living. And then when we have to do that, then naturally there are going to be some sort of differences in the environment. But then the question arises as to if you don't want to do it, or if you are advised not to do something, what are we supposed to do? And then the question arises again, are these advices really, where are they coming from? And who is supposed to observe these things? Those people who have enjoyed the benefits of or advantages of industrial revolution for more than 200 years are now telling us don't do this, don't do that and so on. We don't like it. And then we started investigating more, we started learning more, we started educating ourselves on several of these problems, and we realized that there are so many things which we do not really know. In the sense, we think that okay, the sun is shining and then something is happening and we are burning fossil fuels and we are burning our biomass and so on. And then something happens. And then this, because this thing happens, then we are told, okay, don't do this, don't have thermal power stations, don't have these things, we want energy. So why do these things happen? I will share you some of the instances that I have myself experienced and seen and so on. Now, to begin with, as commonly known, the increasing global temperature will lead to melting of snows in polar regions and high mountains, which will lead to sea level rise, submergence of coastal areas, etc., etc. By now we know that these statements were based on suspicious data and use of wrong models. Scientific American sometime in 1970s, I remember to have read that there was an article which talked about global warming because of increasing carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, I was wondering, within a city, when I am standing under a tree, when I am standing in an open air, and when I am standing near a concrete wall, I get difference in every place, a difference of 2 to 3 degrees Celsius from place to place. Now when 2 to 3 degrees Celsius difference in temperature is felt everywhere within a city, then how wise it is for us to take very seriously a fraction of a Celsius difference in temperature over decades and then get alarmed about these things. Another thing that affected environment or supposed to affect the environment, we have seen the books with titles like Population Bomb. In 50s and 60s, such books were very popular, very well read, very widely read. My own experience as a very junior teacher in Institute of Science, we had a visitor from States, a very prominent, very well read microbiology professor. I know his name, but I remember his name, but I won't give it to you just now. Some of you may be knowing him also. An eminent professor of microbiology visiting India in 1967 under PL 480 program told us during the lecture that the way human population was growing, especially in poor developing countries, a day would come, mind this, a day would come in March of 1998 or some such date, when a child born at 11:30 a.m. will have no place to land on the earth because it's so crowded. We were amused at that time. We will now laugh at that sort of a statement, not a scientist, he's a respected one. In the second decade of 21st century, we are very much rooted on the ground. Then another point is, another example is, in early 70s, Time or maybe Newsweek magazine published a cartoon. Several countries were shown struggling to remain afloat in a stormy ocean and hoping to be picked up by a passing ship. A comment shown to be made by one of the ship crew. It meant that burgeoning population and wretched poverty would make India the last country to be saved from sinking. How interesting. Now that the world is looking at India as one of the potential superpowers. Another example, till about the end of 70s, scientists were debating if the earth was warming or cooling. Quite a lot of discussion was being done at that time. The latter due to reflection of solar radiations from the dust particles of anthropogenic origin. In one of his books, mostly Airport, Arthur Haley has described in detail the difficulty faced by a pilot struggling to land his aircraft safely. His anxiety was due to the particulate matter shining like million mirrors over the aerodrome. In the hope of global warming, people perhaps have totally forgotten about global cooling. Then another example, Asians are mainly rice eaters. This is rather recent. Conventional paddy fields, paddy needs water logging for some part of the life cycle of the crop, and wetlands are known to release methane, which is 25 times more potent as a global warming gas as compared to carbon dioxide. Asians were hence blamed for accelerating global warming and advised, now this is something, advised to eat 50% less rice. A large, well-coordinated, country-wide, 3-year-long research program carried out by CSIR, Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, ICAR, Agriculture Research, some universities covering a large variety of paddies, their cultural practices, methane emissions, etc. was carried out, results of which were double-checked in internationally reputed laboratories. We give a lot of importance to international anything, either laboratory or people. The results of the program published in Nature convinced the world that the figures of methane emission from paddy cultivation, as mentioned by American scientists, were exaggerated by a factor of 10. Juxtapose these findings against estimated figures of the large cattle population of Australia and New Zealand that were contributing, even at that time of making a statement, contributing 20% of methane to the atmosphere. Permafrost regions like Siberia and Greenland and oil fields of Mexico are also known to be major methane hotspots. A few years back, we were again told about Asian brown cloud. Some Indians were also involved in these investigations. This Asian brown cloud, created by large-scale burning of biomass and fossil fuels by countries in South Asia. The cloud would increase temperature in lower atmosphere and cause cooling at Earth's surface. Again, the Asians were to be blamed for spoiling Earth's atmosphere. However, there is no more talk about Asian brown cloud. So why do these things happen? People are doing some work in their laboratories, carrying out some research. They get some results and immediately rush for publicity. Publicity in papers, publicity in media. Nowadays it's very easy for us to catch media because they are also anxious for looking at something where the news, they have to keep you occupied for 24 hours. So they give a lot of news coverage to this. And then when we start looking at it again and again, more intensively, we find that many of these statements, many of these alarms prove to be rather false alarms. Looks like there is some sort of a bias against developing countries who are trying to overcome long periods of deprivation faced during colonial rules. Developed countries have enjoyed fruits of industrial revolution for more than 200 years, while developing countries are getting industrialized over only last last two or three decades. Are they worried that the developing countries who are now looking at such benefits are likely to threaten developed countries? This type of global warming, this also is part of news in many media. The hype of global warming, ozone hole, shrinking Himalayan rivers, climate change, etc., are these the efforts for bringing restrictions on the use of resources by developing countries? Through international treaties, again, environment as a subject has been hijacked. I always feel it, I always tell it. Environment as a subject has been hijacked by non-environmental